So I was playing some custom games with Scooby yesterday. I was playing Seraphim. My Ilshavohs seem to be doing really well. Scooby goes, "Did you know that Ilshavohs are actually more mass efficient for DPS than bricks?" And I was just mind blown. Alrighty guys, hello and welcome back to the show. So today we're going to be stacking up Scooby's claim. So yesterday I was playing some custom games. I was playing Seraphim because I was actually trying to get a feel for the Seraphim Commander so that I could build the upcoming science video for the Seraphim Commander. So make sure that you are subscribed for that. And while you're at it, drop the video a like. If you like seeing these kinds of videos where we break down claims, run through tests, and see which units are actually better in particular situations. But basically, Scooby said that Ilshavohs are more efficient for mass per DPS than bricks are. And I was kind of surprised by that because I know that Ilshavohs can stand up against like Titans or Loyalists, but the bricks and Percivals are kind of in a league of their own, where they're, kind of widely understood as the most powerful units in the T3 phase as far as land versus land. Obviously you got experimentals and everything like that, but as far as high HP, high DPS, bricks and Percivals are really, really good at what they do. So I was really surprised by this. I had to actually test this out. So we're interrupting the Commander Breakdown series because I just had to get to this one. So getting into it, let's review the stats for the various units. So first we have the brick weighing in at 312.15 damage per second, sporting 7,500 health. And if we take the damage per second over mass invested and health over mass invested, we're left with ratios of 24.38 for damage over mass and 5.8693 for health over mass. For the Percival, we have 337.21 damage per second, health weighing in at 7,200, so higher DPS, lower health, and the damage per second over mass invested is 0.2634, and health over mass invested is 5.625 HP per unit of mass that you actually invest into the unit. So that's what we're going to be testing against. Let's get into the Ilshavoh now, which is damage per second of 105 damage per second. So about a third of the contenders on the other side. 2,500 health. So again, about a third. Damage per second for mass though is 0.2917. So if you'll notice, it's higher than both of the bricks or the Percivals. So we've already substantiated Scooby's claim. The health over mass per second is 6.944 repeating. So we've substantiated Scooby's claim, but I really want to get into this because we can run numbers really easily, but I want to make sure that in practice, these numbers actually translate into superior performance. Like if you are stacking Ilshavohs up against bricks, can you expect to win with realistic numbers without getting into like 100 Ilshavohs versus 20 bricks or something like that? So first test we're going to be doing is versus each other. So obviously they're more efficient. We're going to be mass normalizing, or at least as close as we can. So bricks, we can create 2 costing 2,560 mass, and we can create 7 Ilshavohs at 2,520 mass. So the Ilshavohs come in at 40 mass cheaper, but we are very, very close as far as overall mass expended. You're not really going to notice 40 mass missing if you're going bricks, versus if you're a Seraphim player going Ilshavohs. So what was shocking here is the bricks are defeated with 1 Ilshavoh surviving. So doing a deep dive into the delta in HP and damage per second, because that's really what this boils down to, right? We need to understand whenever we pair these guys into groups where we have 2 bricks and 7 Ilshavohs, we need to see the delta in damage per second. So the damage per second that we're seeing out of the Ilshavohs is the delta is about 120 DPS or 16.4% increase in damage per second accrued. So with the 7 Ilshavohs coming in at a similar mass value, you're actually getting about 16% more damage per second. Now this is able to overcome the fact that the bricks can pick off Ilshavohs a little bit faster. So even though the bricks are able to stay in the fight and dish out damage per second for longer, the Ilshavohs are able to have a high enough delta and a high enough efficiency on damage per second per mass invested that it's able to overcome the bricks. Now, normally, whenever people talk about these kind of T3 units, we are comparing bricks and Percivals. And to be fair, they're used for slightly different things. Bricks have a little bit higher fire rate, and Percival's are much more high damage, low fire rate units. So I wanted to stack the Ilshavohs up against the Percivals as well, seeing as how the Percivals come in at similar damage per second, same mass invested, etc. We're going to use the same ratios here. So 2,560 mass spent on 2 Percivals, 2,520 mass spent on 7 Ilshavohs. Now, 1 Percival survives this test with about half health. So I think the reason why here is we have a much smaller delta here in damage per second than with the bricks. So the delta is only 10% between the Ilshavohs weighing in at about 735 damage per second, and then we have the Percivals weighing in at 663 damage per second if you combine the 2 units. So the delta there is much more narrow, and it means that the Percivals with high alpha strike are able to very quickly take out the first Percival, or the very first Ilshavoh, which immediately reduces the damage per second by 105 done by the Ilshavohs. So basically, because the Percivals have a slightly longer range than the Ilshavohs, and because they're able to eliminate an Ilshavoh before the Ilshavohs even get into firing range, we see the Percivals actually faring much better here, whereas the bricks have a more spread out damage per second. It takes them a little bit longer to whittle out an Ilshavoh, and that Ilshavoh then gets into firing range. So based on this, though, I had to look at taking this to another level, which is bricks and Percivals are some of the better T3 units that are out there as far as utilizing them. And a lot of people don't even really build Othams, which are the kind of equivalent on the Seraphim side. The T3 siege tank, it weighs in a little bit cheaper than the bricks and the Percivals, and it has a similar reduction to damage per second. So kind of based on that, with the Ilshavohs trading so well with the bricks and Percivals, I was asking myself, is it even worth it to build Othams whenever you can just build Ilshavohs? So I had to do another test for Othams versus Ilshavohs here. So normalizing for mass here actually lines up exactly. So we spend 2,520 mass for both sides, 3 Othams and 7 Ilshavohs. And in this test, 1 Otham survived and they took out all of the Ilshavohs. So the Otham has a DPS over mass invested of 0.33 in the group. Now we can compare that to the Ilshavohs ratio of 0.297. So the Otham is actually more efficient than the Ilshavoh as far as damage per second over mass invested, which by extension means it's more efficient than both the bricks and the Percivals. And I'm sure that's going to get me a whole lot of love in the comments below. But the overall DPS delta is 13% in favor of the Otham. So there's really nothing here going for the Ilshavoh. The one caveat here is that this is only if both of the Otham's weapon systems come to bear here. So the Otham has 2 primary weapon systems. One has a longer range than the other. There's a more alpha strike cannon, and then there is a higher rate of firing cannon as well. And this only works if both of the Otham's weapon systems come to bear here. If you kind of kite Othams around a little bit, the Ilshavohs will still win. But regardless, I was shocked by the result. So let's go ahead and come to a conclusion here, because I guess what this question is trying to answer is, are Ilshavohs stronger than T3 units? Which it kind of felt like they were in the game that I was playing with Scooby, where I had maybe 5 or 6 Ilshavohs in my commander just set to auto charge on kind of the front line, and I held off forces that were probably 2 to 3 times as large as mine. So the Ilshavohs were really, really strong there. But to kind of bring this to a conclusion, the Ilshavohs are incredibly strong. And it can definitely be a band-aid to help with a later tech switch. So if you're a front player and if you're a front player playing against, say, a UEF player or a Cybern player, and your opponent is getting slung a lot of good mass to kind of help them upgrade their tech and help them upgrade their fire bases, and your allies are being a little bit more, I guess, greedy or stingy, or maybe you just didn't eco as hard, and you have the result is a later tech switch, the Ilshavohs can be a band-aid here to help lessen that blow, because they can stand toe-to-toe with bricks, and they can actually trade reasonably well with Percivals as well with some support. So that's kind of the upside. But the downside here is it won't fix everything, and there are a lot of good things later on in the Seraphim tech tree, like Othams, snipers, Ithotas, that'll be better than just sticking with Ilshavohs throughout the duration of the game. But I guess what this is trying to prove is that the Ilshavohs are a really, really strong unit. Balance Council, please fix. Actually, I don't know if it needs to be fixed, but I thought that I was really, really surprised by these tests, I guess, is what I'm basically trying to say. Anyway, we're going to wrap the video there. Shorter one for you guys today. Like and subscribe for more content. You guys know the drill. If you guys like this kind of stuff, subscribing so that you don't miss anything, as well as liking the video so it gets recommended to more people. It really actually helps me out. It's very motivational to me. But I will stop yammering. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.